Well, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. We have a special guest, as we do every week. We post our podcast weekly, Wednesdays, and we're excited to bring in an old friend of mine, Dr. Greg Shirley. He and I went to school together, in fact, and so I reached out. He was on the top of my list a few months ago, and not too long ago, I reached out again. I said, "Yo, Dr. Shirley, I'd love to have you on our podcast." He was so gracious enough to accept our invitation, and so here we are with the opportunity to speak to him. And I think if you're listening in today, you're going to really enjoy that conversation. But again, everyone, welcome to our podcast. We say often that we're just a humble group of young men and not so young. That would be
Not so young.
that really have
I was like, young men.
men.
My left knee is hurting as we speak, and I'm sitting down.
That's right. That's right. And the concept of this is to talk to other men about those vulnerabilities and those abilities to navigate a conversation about life, death, and everything in between. We live our life, we're born, and we just have success, or we struggle and we navigate and we overcome all these challenges. And then at times in our life, death approaches us, and we have to talk about it. We have to think about it. In fact, we have to plan for it. And for those of us who are left behind after the death of a loved one, what does that look like, and what does that feel like? And so, we welcome today's guest, Dr. Shirley. If you don't mind, please introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself.
Man, so as Fred mentioned, we go back way back, back before there was the wrinkles that were on the top of my forehead right here and the fine lines and stuff like that. However, as he mentioned, Dr. Greg Shirley, I am 43 years old. I reside in Dallas, Texas. I am one of five children of Gregory Shirley Sr. and Arvetta Shirley. You may hear a lot about them this evening based upon tonight's conversation. And Fred knows this, or should I call you Dr.
No,
Fuentes? Dr. Fuentes, Fred. Well, Freddie F. He knows this. Like, if I were to say anything about me, it's that I'm a twin. I have a twin brother, Dr. Zachary Shirley. And you're going to hear a lot about him this evening as well. However, to grow up and be twins and to go through life and growth and success and failure and grief and loss as a twin, I feel like there's a unique dynamic to it compared to if you were a single birth person, if you're a singleton. And so that's going to really inform my conversation this evening. However, the not so interesting stuff, I work in educational technology. I spent 15 years in higher education, specifically in the career services space. And then once the pandemic came and we were coming out of the tail end of it, I really was like, you know what? I can't see myself working at a brick and mortar office anymore. And so I wanted that freedom. I wanted that flexibility. I wanted to go out on an adventure. And so in ed tech, I'm fortunate enough to still work with colleges and universities, primarily historically Black colleges and universities, predominantly Black institutions, minority serving institutions. However, I can do that from the joy and comfort of my home. So I really appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, that's a little bit about me. I guess you can also say that I am a big fitness and wellness nut, because I'm in my 40s and things aren't moving like they used to move. And it takes a little bit longer to get things done because I got a little hitch my giddy up. I've really been examining how to, I guess, stave off or prevent age, not from a totally narcissistic perspective. However, especially with the recent passing of my father, I've realized now as the new patriarch of the family, because I'm the oldest male, there are people who rely on me and there are people who depend on me. And I need to be around for as long as I possibly can so I can be there as a resource to those people who are depending upon me, while at the same time preparing them and giving them as much time to prepare for my inevitable transition into an ancestor. So, yeah, that's me. Also, crazy thought, if you like really look really closely, like right here, you see a very young picture of my twin brother and I dressed up. So,
It might be time
you'll
to
see.
recreate that photo, you know?
I don't think we will wear. And Fred, you know this better than anyone. Those are clip-on bow ties, and you know the Shirley twins do not do clip-on bow ties.
A crime was committed in that photo, but
A
Exhibit
crime.
A,
Once again, Fred, I was in dire straits and didn't even know it.
and that's all right.
I was down bad, as the young people like to say.
Right. You know, you talked about being the oldest and that responsibility. Can you expand on that a little bit? You know, for a lot of individuals, that the transition of their father in this case, of a parent, puts you in a position, right, where your siblings are looking to you, whether you're ready or not, whether you're prepared or not, and whether you want to or not. This is a situation we find ourselves in. Can you expand a little bit on that for someone listening in that says, "What if?"
Of course, yes, yes. So what's ironic is, and we're a blended family, right? So my siblings, like I've got a half brother and two half sisters. However, we all have the same mother, so we always grew up being brothers. There was no half to it. And so I'm actually the third oldest. I have my oldest sister and my oldest brother. My oldest brother passed away like 2 years ago. So then I became the oldest son. And I can remember when having conversations with my dad, because not only am I the oldest of his boys, I'm his namesake, so I'm named after him.
That's right.
And so there's that additional subjective layer to that of being the junior or the second. And I can remember having the conversation with him and him telling me the things that I needed to do specifically for our youngest sister. And was like, you need to be there for her, because if you're not, she's gonna mess stuff up and do all that. And I can remember sitting there and hearing all of that and saying, that's not my responsibility. I don't have children. The only person I need to, be directly responsible for on a daily basis is myself. I didn't ask for this. However, now has been imparted upon me. And so ever since my father passed away, he was my last living parent. And so my siblings and I are orphaned adults. And so now and I can remember my twin brother and I talked about this, and we literally said, damn, we're the adults now. Like, we're the grown people. And we're reading this really impactful book, and it talks about how now our mortality is much more at the forefront because now we're next.
Yeah.
There's no generation prior to us anymore. Our grandparents have passed away. Our parents are now passed away. It's us now. However, what I will say is, fortunately or unfortunately, and it's funny we're having this conversation today because I'm the one sibling out of the remaining four, or five rather, that I will literally talk to each of my siblings every day. I will talk to my older sister. I will talk to my twin brother. I will talk to my youngest sister, whether it's via phone call, text message, or something. But they don't have that same relationship. They don't have that same dynamic. One or two are always screening the other one or two's phone calls, but my calls are always the ones that are answered.
And it
And
better remain
so,
that way.
I mean, yes. Here's why I like to say that I'm a fitness and wellness nut, because if I'm not here, who are they gonna
Right.
call? Each other? No, no, they're not. They're not gonna call each other. And if they do, they'll screen each other's calls. Um, However, it's something that now that my dad has been an ancestor for about 2 months now, I can say that I somehow have easily transitioned into that patriarchal role, because it goes back to what I just said, right? Like, I'll talk to each of my siblings every day. I need to make sure that they're okay. I need to make sure that they're speaking to each other, because I'm the one that they call when they're having a beef with the other two. And I'll have to ask them, have you spoken to Punkin about this? Have you spoken to Annalise about this? Have you spoken to Zachary about this? Because you can tell me, however, you need to have the conversation with them, and then it kind of like levels them out and calms them down. And so it's not something that I asked for, because I was very intentional about being not childless, but child free. But God bless y'all to have children. I chose not to have children, so your children can have resources in a world that's literally on fire right now.
You're right about that.
Literally on fire. Well, actually, unless you're in the Gulf Coast, flooding.
Correct. That's right. We're filming this
So yeah,
on a day where a major hurricane has landed in the Matagorda, Houston area.
Hurricane Burl is whooping their ass.
It is.
And that is from two direct sources who literally said, who living in
That's
Houston
right.
or Harris County, Burl's beating our asses. We have no power.
And
But yes, this is a world where, I mean, the children will inherit this. This is why I'm child free, not childless. Because I'm not lacking anything. I'm macking, never lacking.
no, I appreciate that. I'm lucky. I do love being a parent. And in my children, I see just a beautiful innocence and hope, that I wish others could see as well. And even if you don't have children, my hope is that you see that in children
Oh,
such
yeah.
as mine. That you see that.
I can also see you, Fred, being that, like, really, like, insane
Yeah.
dad.
Oh yeah. No, there's an insanity component to
No
it. There
kids.
has to be. My son asked last night when we got home from our long vacation. We got home late last night, and he said, "Is the fart challenge still a thing?" Because I feel like I'm the champion of this. And I said, "You may continue to be the fart challenge of the 2024 vacation. You can have that title." And my wife's like, "What's wrong with you two?" Like, he's a boy. He's a little boy. He found something silly. We're gonna run with it. You know? Yeah, I'm a little crazy. It's okay. And you have to have fun.
Yeah, like protective too,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, here's what I know. I know that it this this could be our last trip. We don't know what tomorrow brings, right? This could be, because as my wife and I get older, health could be an issue. As my children get older, they're very involved in sports. That could limit the summers as well. And so the truth of the matter is that we don't know, any of us in this world of 7.4 billion or whatever it is. None of us know what tomorrow or 5 minutes could bring, and we all are vulnerable in that regard. And so for that reason alone, I really try to make memories with those that I love, my children, my friends, my colleagues, people I appreciate. And so I'm very intentional. And if you've ever faced death, it changes your perspective on life. in fact. And so that's where I'm at in my 50s, man. I'm like, you know, uh, I don't care how it affects, whatever my personal feelings or somebody else's, like if it hurts their feelings. People don't care about your feelings. I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do for the protection and the well-being of my children. That won't change. It's only just more of a solidified commitment as the years move along. And so that's, I'll be insane, I'll be crazy, and I'll be more loving. The lessons I learned from my older children, I try to integrate today with my kids. So, yeah, I appreciate that perspective for sure. Um,
Yeah.
and I know, and it says a lot about your mom and dad and how you were raised, right? That's the beauty of it. That
I mean, yeah, we were like we were the Huxtables. However, like a lot of what I live to this
Yeah,
day is because of my parents. So yeah, they're definitely honored and appreciated.
Sure, that's awesome. You mentioned a little bit that you and your brother both have a doctoral degree. Um, how did that come about? Like, what inspired y'all to want to be doctors, to get into this crazy world of higher ed?
that's the insanity part. They gotta both be crazy to both have earned.
Fred, I'm gonna speak of a name that you know to answer that question.
Uh,
Have you girded your loins, Fred? Are you bracing
I am.
yourself?
Come on with it.
Answer your question, M. LaValle Hendricks.
Yes. Okay.
So I can remember when Zach and I were in graduate school at A&M Commerce because we always knew we wanted to be in education, right? We knew initially we thought, okay, well, we're going to be high school teachers because we didn't know that working at a college was a thing. So when we were attending Paul Quinn College, the oldest historically black college and university west of the Mississippi, founded in 1872 by a small circuit of African Methodist Episcopal circuit riding preachers. I was an orientation leader, so there you go.
Paul Quinn.
I liked history. I liked the subject of history. Zach liked the subject of English. So we were like, oh, okay, well, we'll just be English and history teachers. Simple.
Yeah.
And
Then we started
and then you met
teaching.
Dr. LaValle Hendricks.
Yes. We started student teaching, and we were like, we cannot be teachers in K-12. Absolutely not. So then one of our college friends, he was getting his higher education degree at Commerce, and he told us about the higher education master's degree at Commerce. So then we were like, okay, well, we graduated in 2005. We started summer school, literally started summer school July of 2005 for our master's degrees. And we were like, oh, well, let's take a minor or a concentration in counseling because it sounds like it's a good idea. We like the classes. There was a student affairs cognate from Dr. Hendricks. So we started taking the classes with Dr. Hendricks. And we love his style of teaching. We love his style of approaching things. All of that. It was really like mellow. It really was. And so I think by mistake or by the ignorance of youth, we listened when he said, you all should pursue your doctorate degree. You all should get your doctorate degree. Imagine two black doctors who are twins. And that's what stuck with us. Because how many black twin doctors do you know?
No, I know none.
That are in the same field.
When I brag about y'all, I tell them, I said, did you know? I know. Now there might be 100 others, but I'm telling you right now, I tell the world, I know the only two.
Mm-hmm.
And we're both queer? Shit. I mean, it writes itself. Tell Andy Cohen to sell it to Bravo because it's a show. And we're going to have at least 5
There's
seasons.
a show right there. You're right about that.
So, yeah, that's what caused us to pursue the doctorate degree.
And, that's funny.
We had no intention of getting it whatsoever.
And that's funny because, we moved out to East Texas. I went on the website to find out a place. I was living in another country, in Guatemala, actually. and I was looking for a place that was away, close enough to a big city, but not in a big city because the
Mm-hmm.
violence that we experience in this Latin American country was crazy. And went on the website and I saw uh, Doctor Hendricks, and I thought I'm just looking at the picture, never talked to him, nothing. And I thought, now that's someone I think I can get along with. You know,
Yeah.
I read his bio. They had it on the website, and a couple other professors, and Dr. Chester Robinson,
Mm-hmm.
and there was just some really great,
RP to a real one.
there was some great professors. And I said, I'm going to go to school there, and that's how I came to East Texas. The
Mm.
same connection, and I met him the first week I was here at a MLK march,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I met some other colleagues, and they helped me. He connected me, and you're right. He has a unique style
Yeah, it is.
of motivating and getting you excited, and
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, that's what we share all the time. Is like we seek uh, individuals like that, the men and women in our life who get us excited about life, and we also want to be those individuals who people seek, right? And so when our colleagues, when our students, young minds, they're going to reach out to us more than anyone else.
Yeah.
That's just it's all over. It's in the data. It's the truth of everything we do. They're going to seek us out when they know that two brothers, two twins, are have earned doctorates. They're going to seek you out, and it's going to overwhelm you with your time. That's the negative side. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, sir. It's going to work
Mm-hmm.
more than some of your other colleagues, and this is the reality. And you have someone like Dr. LaValle Hendricks, for example, never complains about it. He just, what do you need? How can I help you? And it's a beautiful thing. And may there be more people like that
Yeah.
in your life. And
May
the
there.
three of us are
Yes.
lucky to have had that connection for sure.
How do y'all feel about the name? You know what's funny? My next door neighbor, they actually did send law enforcement over there because it turned out he was a bank robber and a car
Whoa!
felon. And so the SWAT team came over and they batter rammed his
No.
home and raided it, and FBI and CSI were in there. The man, 2 days later, and it's on the news, you can Google it. Google bank robbery or police set it off in Colleyville. He went to Colleyville, shot himself in the head,
Dang.
and killed himself.
That's crazy.
Hate to see that, man. You know,
Yes, and so when you say that, Fred, it's like, yeah, law enforcement already knows what I'll say because I say across the hall from the bank robber and the car felon.
accessory to bank robbery.
I am not. Does this face look like it gives accessory to bank robbery?
No, you stand out.
Do I look like I'm down
You stand
bad?
out too much. To be a bank robber, you have to
gotta
be
blended
way
in.
more incognito.
Yeah.
Okay.
I stand out because I'm a twin. That's why I stand out.
Uh,
And I'm a black man in
let,
America,
let me ask you a
in
question.
the South, on purpose.
He's trying to get me in trouble.
Yeah.
He's been doing that. I bragged about you earlier. I'll share that later on. But I bragged about you to a colleague here. Let me ask you a question. What inspires you? What has inspired you in your life?
Oh man, you know what? And Fred, I love that you asked that question because I feel like you can resonate with this because the fact that the two of you are together, I think resonates with that and responds to that in that my students, like
Yeah.
because Fred, you remember being a young professional and all of these kids, they were kids, right? 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And you're inspiring them and you're motivating them and you're mentoring them, even when, if we're being honest, you and I didn't know we were doing half the time
That's right.
anyway. We were winging
That's
it.
right.
And to see that now our kids are adults and they have kids, whether through biology and marriage or through mentorship, like what I have with my
Mhm.
kids, like seeing them progress and be adults and make decisions and be confident. And when I can remember them being so unsure and uncertain, and we're telling them, you know what, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And then really thinking about, you know what, I didn't even know if it was going to be okay then. But that was all they needed.
Yeah.
And now we see that they're as much as they can possibly be okay.
Yeah.
And so that's what inspires me and motivates me. And I think also that's what I miss the most about no longer being in higher education and being in the educational technology and software as a service and corporate culture, because I don't
Yeah.
engage with students
Yes.
anymore. Like I don't have
Yeah.
that focal point of seeing the potential in that young 18-year-old kid that's walking across campus in what's perhaps their best outfit
Mhm.
and thinking that they got to impress these other 18-year-olds who are also not knowing any better. And they're all just trying to pose on
Right.
each other and then finding that synergy. I miss that. But what inspires me is that is still thankfully going on because, you know, the youth have taken over.
And you know what? And that's what I love about the industry that we're and I say it often. We are privileged to work in. You get to really see how one resource, education, positively impacts lives and could change your life. It doesn't mean, and I
Yeah.
don't buy into you have to be educated to be successful. You have to be educated to be happy. Absolutely not. I don't think any of us believe that.
Mm-hmm.
But I know for a fact how education impacted me, people I care about, people I admire, people that inspire me. I know what access to a 2-year degree and a 4-year degree or a welding certificate or
Mhm.
air conditioned mechanic certificate, what that meant to them and what it means to me. I see it in their face.
Mhm.
For many years, I got to announce the names at graduation. You know, the amount of graduations we've been to collectively. You see the
Mm-hmm.
joy in parents and grandparents and great grandparents. It's a beautiful thing. And the common joke within our communities is when graduation time comes and they say, hey, I have 8 tickets for you or 10 tickets for you. And what black and brown family only has 8 members?
We need 30 tickets. We need 30
Yeah,
tickets.
and that's it. You know, my colleagues say, well, how many did you need? And I heard students say, 24 more. Well, we already gave you 10. Baby, 24 more. And
Yeah,
maybe,
maybe.
maybe.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty, right? It just says how proud we are of each other.
Yeah.
All races,
Yes.
ethnicities, all gender. Just how proud we are when we walk that stage. So we're lucky we get to see that
Yeah.
daily and every end of semester, for sure.
Yeah. And what I definitely hope is, because once again, I'm harkening back when it was you and me, Fred. I can remember the first time I met you, I was like, this guy has the same kind of sense of humor that I have. So we're gonna get along really
And we
well.
did. We got along. We got along well.
We like, as colleagues, as men of color, like we had that just I really don't give a fuck. Like I give a fuck, but I don't give
Yeah,
a fuck. Like it's
yeah.
whatever. And I'm hopeful that people of color at Commerce now, because you remember Commerce then and Commerce now, like I really hope that, not even just at that particular institution, but at institutions across the nation, they have that, you know. And so that's definitely something that I'm proud of, because you see, like you said, you see the potential in that person. And I'm glad you used the word education, because education is different for people across the board. But education, whether it's at a 2-year institution or a 4-year institution, or unfortunately, worst case scenario, hard knock life, it's
Correct.
all
Correct.
education. And someone is knowledgeable and a specialist in that particular
That's right.
area that can inform the other two or so.
Absolutely. 100%.
Sure.
So we, the concept of our podcast is my colleague, my homeboy here, and I just going to lunch often and grabbing dinner and occasional drinks and just kind of talking about the importance of you said it earlier, of communicating with you and your siblings. If you don't communicate, um, lots of misinformation can happen, or even worse, no information, right? After the death of a parent, and as you become that, uh, that adult, the only or the oldest adult kind of situation. And so in those discussions, Caesar and I just thought, let's do a podcast where we can talk to other men about these experiences, mostly because we don't think there are enough narratives where men are leading the conversation about men, right? It's not that we don't want to interview women. Our joke is that we're not smart enough to interview women. you know,
Because there's so many
you
layers.
know,
Like, you're right, we're not
we're
smart
not
enough. Y'all
worthy,
not,
man.
y'all we like, I'm like, what? And they be like, well, no, because A plus B may equal C, but it also equals F. And let me tell you
Here's
why.
why. And look beautiful like
And
you.
I'm like, no, A plus B equals C.
And I'm still like, so
What if it
is
equals
this how
F?
you draw an A?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, no, really. So that's why we don't interview women, because we're gonna keep our skill set where it needs to be,
Yeah.
very moderate. But keeping all that in mind, the scenario is, if given 30 days to live, just as a scenario, a doctor says, Dr. Shirley, uh, we found something, and we think you only have about 30 days. If this is true for that moment, what's the first thing you do? Who do you call? Who do you communicate with?
So the first thing that I would definitely do is cry and process. I've always been a very logical person, so processing for me helps. And there's not a specific timetable of
Right.
how long it would take for me to
Right.
process. However, because of the scenario that I only have 30 days, I would
Right.
probably have to process
So there's that.
really
It would
quickly.
expedite that.
And so, however, I know definitely, like, the first person I would call would be my twin brother. The first person I would call would be Zach. If anything, Zach will have known everything leading up to that point, unless he's already there. Because knowing my twin brother, if I'm telling him stuff like this and I'm not feeling well, he's going to be there with me. However, if he's not there with me, that has to be the first person. That has to be, because he's my next in line. I'm 12 minutes older than my twin brother. Our parents didn't know they were having twins.
You're how many minutes older?
12
Wow,
minutes. 12
that's
minutes.
a lot.
And yeah, that's a lot. And so my name was actually going to be Gregory or Zachary, because I'm named after our father. However, my mother really liked the name Zachary.
Yeah.
And so there's a blessing that she could have a Gregory and a Zachary. And so literally that is the other me. So he has to know. He has to know first. After that, I will work with him to disseminate it amongst everyone else. Because also an interesting thing about twins is As a twin, you don't just have your friends, you have your twin brother's
That's right.
friends. And so you have double friends. So that makes for a really big conversation.
That's wild, right? When you think about it, I'm lucky. I also have twins, and I see that as well. I get to see the beauty of how they communicate and how they love each other, and it's a beautiful thing. It really,
Yeah. It's a scary thing. However, it's a beautiful thing, because being a twin, you're always used to having that other person next to you. And then what do you do when you don't have that other person next to you? And whether indirectly or directly, whether intentionally or unintentionally, society brings that up as well. Because, Fred, yeah, you called me and Zach, you called us Greg and Zach, but there's so many other people that just say, oh, the twins, the twins, the boys. Like growing up, our mother and our father and they'd be like, oh, well, where are the boys at? So you're always associated with your twin. And so then when one of you inevitably becomes the ancestor first, what does that look like? And so that now is where at 43, now that our parents have both transitioned, that's where my twin brother and I are. Those are the conversations we have. Like we sit down and we say, okay, well, what's going to happen? This is what's going to happen if I pass away before you. These are the things, like all of his stuff is going to me. All of my stuff is going to him. However, we have conversation about how, what would it be like if he passed away before I did? And, my twin brother has said, God knows not to take you before me. Because if God took you before me, then like Zach would say, he would really go off the rails. And, those are things that you need to have a discussion about. So, Fred, the fact that you have twins, buckle up, bruh. That's all I'm saying.
I'm buckled. I've been buckled, man.
Gird your loins, Fred. Gird your loins. Batten down the hatches, bruh.
Thanks for the warning.
I'm sorry I went kind of off the rails. I apologize.
Thanks for the warning.
Listen, because that's all I can give you. I can't give you any help. I can just give you a warning.
No, after this, I'll be sharing your number. Here's Uncle Greg and Uncle Zach. Call them if you need anything. I'm out.
Go ahead, Lord, from here.
We joke.
But they owe your taxes, not mine, Fred. Why I gotta do they owe your taxes?
No, it's a beautiful thing. I joke, but I'm reminded real quick of when we walk in the stores, and my wife and I are Latino, Hispanic, and our children are African American, and we walk in stores. African American women in particular stare, and they look, and then they look at me, and they do like that. Okay, that's a nod of approval based on look, hair, appearance, because otherwise, because I've asked. Let me ask you a question. You just did me like that. What does this mean? You're doing all right. Because if you weren't, sir, I'd have a long conversation with you. You know what I mean? And so it's a beautiful thing. Man. I love that members of the community that I don't know are being aware of children, of people who could be related to them, to any one of them. And I love that those individuals, women in particular, give that nod of approval. Good for you. I love that, man.
Oh yeah, because women of color, like men of color, we ain't shit. But women of color, like, I can admit that. Like now, I'm black and y'all not, so y'all can disagree. However, for me, black women are the standard, and I'm gay, so.
Much love and respect.
But like Fred, I'm sure your wife, like, yeah, you're the man of the house, but your wife drops some knowledge.
Come on, man, of course.
She drops
100%.
knowledge.
She's such a quiet and peaceful woman, but when she speaks, right, it's that kind of power. Like, I have something to say, and so everyone in the house listens because she doesn't say a whole lot. She's pretty quiet. She likes to learn and listen. But when she does speak, you better believe that we are listening. Like,
You
and if
better be.
Mama says it,
You better be.
shoot. And if Mama says it,
Better have.
her mama,
In the black
her
community,
mama, will
did you ask your mama? Go ask your
go
mama.
after
Did
me.
you ask your mama? What's your
I don't
mama
want no
say?
trouble. Go ask your mom.
Every time I would call home, Fred, and my dad would answer the phone, and I have a question. He's like, "I don't know, but you can ask your mama. Here's your mama."
What she say? It's to keep everybody
What she
safe.
said.
It really so nobody gets murdered. What your mama say? Connie?
Exactly.
Whatever she said, go.
You know,
Oh man.
Well, it's good to know that it's also like that in y'all
100%.
community as well. That y'all
Well,
mamas.
and to be fair, my wife's family, they're Afro Latinos, and so a lot of that those same American understandings happen, of course, in Latin America. In fact, when I first moved
Mm-hmm.
to her country, Panama, um, uh, I observed a lot of things and the culture and the geography and everything. But anyways, her sister and her sister's husband were there, and I said, "Oh man, that's really cool that your sister's in a biracial relationship with her husband." They said, what does that mean, biracial?" I said, "Well, your sister is Afro Latina or Latina, and your brother in law is African." And they said, "Don't come here with your American lens. They're two people." And
Ooh.
I was 19 years old. They said, "They're two people in love. Don't make it anything other than two people in love."
I mean, they were
They were
wrong.
not
They were not
lying. I
wrong.
mean, the thing is that my American lens wanted to point out and identify race, ethnicity, color, but that's not the
Right. Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
How about this? It's just two people who love each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's just two people who
And
whatever the situation is.
and America has that bad.
Yeah,
Like we as Americans, and it's interesting because we're the three of us are Americans, but we're also people of
that's right.
color. So we have that
That's right.
dynamic of knowing that, but also being very first world American. And when we go, at least when I go places that isn't America, and they look at me crazy, I'm like, well, why is it? Because I'm black? They're like, no, you're an
That's
American.
right. And
Oh yeah, I am.
I say often the ability to complain and to be upset or to be whatever frustrated, I say it's a privilege. Because if you ever been hungry, you ever been homeless, you ever been in a situation like that, you ain't got the privilege, the time, or the energy to complain about said thing. Oh, the air conditioner don't work right in my house. But if you've ever been without
Hmm.
a home, if you've ever been in a rainstorm or in a situation where you can't get out of, you will never complain about the heat, the cold, the air conditioner, the heat again. There's a certain humility to that, and there's a certain privilege to be able to complain. It was a privilege that I was showing up with, my
Yeah.
American privilege, to say, "Oh, that's kind of cool." I thought I was being complimentary, and what I was doing, in fact, was using divisive language, and they
Yeah.
educated me on that. And I take pride. I'm a proud American, and I'm someone who learns often. So that's a moment that I look back to for 30 years now, more than 30 years, about the little lesson in humility in how people may or may not self-identify. Don't put that label on me, and that's what the message was, in
Yep.
fact.
Yeah.
And I mean, even for me, like the fact that when I tell people that I'm homosexual and all that, and they look at me crazy, I'm like, it's just two people loving people.
That's it.
Like, are you the same way when you see a biracial couple, or you see a couple where one is in a wheelchair and one
Right.
isn't, or one is blind and one isn't? It's just people loving people, and also it has nothing to do with
That's
you.
right. Newsflash.
I should have led with that first. It has nothing to do
It's
with
true. It's true. I ask my daughter all the time. I said, my oldest daughter, I said, "Are you happy and are you safe?" I don't care about anything else. Are you
Mm-hmm.
happy and are you
Yep.
safe? And the safety part is a father, is a concerned father. And the happiness is just me as a human being. Are you happy? I want people to be happy. I really do. Like, if you are, And I say that about your job. Hey, I got this new job. Are you happy at your new job? Man, then I love it for you.
Mhm.
I love to see the smiles on people's faces. I don't want to see you frown. And in fact, I've even been to, let's say, a restaurant where people just upset and just miserable. And I said, now
Yeah.
listen, baby, if you don't love what you're doing, let somebody else do it.
Mm-hmm.
Go find another job because you're not happy here. And it's the same thing with any relationship. If you're working somewhere in whatever industry, or if you're in a relationship with someone and you're not happy, um, step one is you communicate. You let them know it's not working out, and I need to transition out. And I think happiness is
Mm-hmm.
that goodness is that important, you know. But
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to our one of our next questions. One of the things that we like to talk about is if you again we're in this scenario, are there any regrets or anything that you would change in your life up to that point that you might want to redo, or regrets that you might have to apologize to somebody or anything like that that you can think of?
Mm. That is a really excellent question. I have a couple of answers to that, if that's
Yeah, for sure.
okay. I think definitely the first thing would be, and I think this is something that can, resonate with the three of us. When your parent passes away and you want that one last time to tell them that you love them. You may have said it every day, every week, every month leading up to it. However, it never seems like it's enough. And so for me, I definitely would want to tell both my parents, especially my mother, because she passed away in 2012 and it was more shocking and jarring because I was younger. I love you. But also, I'm proud of you because you raised five kids throughout your 50s and your 60s. And I don't know. I'm 43 now. And I can remember my mother and my father dealing with my younger sister, and it didn't resonate with me and it didn't click. And I'm like, how can you be 43 raising a child? It's insane to me. It's wow. Because I can't even raise myself. I still don't know what I'm doing, and I'm 43. Um, but I will want to tell them definitely you did right by us. Like you did what you needed to do. We're okay. When my dad was passing away and it was getting really bad and he was really towards the end, he was really upset. He was like, I don't want to leave my babies. I don't want to leave my babies. And I had to tell him, my twin brother told him, we're okay. You know, we're good. We're okay. I can't say that I was able to have that with my mother because once again I was younger and it was much more jarring. Outside of that though, I could honestly say there's not much that I regret. I am the type of person where and this is much to the chagrin of my twin brother and my older sister, who both want to put Life 360 on me. I'm all about the vibe, y'all. Like I'm about a good time. If you throwing vibes, I'm catching them. So with that being said, I'm all about a good time, and my siblings are so much more cautious and they're very worried about the things that I do. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I got it. Because, you know, we can't take it with us, right? Fred, you mentioned earlier, every time you have an interaction with somebody, you want them to be happy. You want them to have a great life. We cannot take these experiences with us. You want to appreciate every moment that you have with your friends, your family, even, your coworkers or random strangers, because we're all the same people who are on this earth at the same time.
you're right. We cannot take it with us, but one thing I've learned, we sure can leave it behind,
Hmm.
the good or the bad.
Mm-hmm.
And if you leave that vibe, that joy, the beauty, you might inspire a whole community. You might inspire a whole city or state. But more importantly, I want to inspire my children and the people in my family, the people in my small community. I acknowledge that when I transition, not one penny will benefit me, right? Not one bit of knowledge or anything I learn. Our degrees won't matter to us. We've transitioned, but it does matter to those who are behind. And so that service, the funeral service and memorial services, they're for the living.
Yeah.
And we share often that in our culture, we're so lucky that we have Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, where we talk about those who have transitioned. We're not afraid of death. In fact, every year in November, we get and we do it more often than that. I mention my grandma's name and mom's name daily. I have an alarm on my phone that goes off every day at 3:33, the time my mom passed. I think about my mom every day. But in November, as a culture, we get to talk about and celebrate and highlight those ancestors who have transitioned. And that's where we keep them alive. We know that the dead have transitioned. But I would offer to you, Dr. Shirley, that just like in our culture, in many cultures around the world, saying their name keeps them alive. I know more about your mom and your dad today than I did yesterday. And that's the beauty about their memory. And one of the more beautiful things you said is like, you said that you would tell your mom and dad that you were proud of them. And that hurt me in a beautiful way. Like that was a beautiful reference to say to our parents, I'm proud of you. You did well by us. Because they do not hear it often enough.
If ever.
If ever.
Yeah.
If ever, man.
Yep. And, and it's crazy that we never, however, once again, it goes into what we were talking about earlier in that we don't talk about orphaned adults. We don't talk about adult grief to the degree that we talk about children who are orphaned and children who are going through grief. And it's just like there were so many opportunities where we could have told our deceased parents that we were proud of them. Yeah. We didn't see it as that then because, of course we were young. I won't even say we were younger than them. We were just young. And, in our defense and in our parents' defense, and I don't know if it's like this in the Latino culture, it's like no one teaches you about death. Like no one tells your parent, your grandparents don't tell your parents, okay, but this is what you're going to expect because this is what I expected with your grandparents. My parents can tell me what to expect losing them because their parents never told them. And I feel like that's a big disservice. And so that's why for me, going back to the question and the prompt, if I had 30 days to live, I would tell my family and the survivors, this is what you're going to expect. This is what you need to expect. This is what you need to prepare for. And I actually have a book in my room that I bought for my father that I wanted to go through with him, but he was not having it. It's called I'm Dead, Now What? Mm-hmm. And every page is like, okay, well, what's your banking information? What's your financial information? What's your life insurance information? What do you want to wear? What song do you want played at your funeral? Who do you not want to come to your funeral? What do you want us to say? And it's a book that I still have that is empty. Because when I took it to my father, he was like, I don't want to fill that out.
That's funny because that those are questions that we just came up on our own. We didn't use any resources. Those are very similar to questions that we have on the podcast as well. It's like, what do you want your funeral to look like? I'll tell you, my mom was very specific. She wrote it down, and she wanted 2 services, one in the town where she left in East Texas, and one in her hometown in Corpus Christi. And we honored that. Had she not written that, you don't know. And that's where the industry can, you could feel like the industry takes advantage of you. You're hurt the days after your family member transition. You're not thinking about the color of a coffin and what song to play. And that's a big part of what we talk about. I mean, I'll ask you, like, is there any song that resonates with you that you'd want played at your funeral or a playlist?
Um, there are so many. However, every time every time a new song comes out,
You
I
replace,
forget the
yeah,
whole song. So now the song of the moment, the song
correct,
of
right
right
now.
now, in this moment at 7 almost 20 p.m. On July 8th. Beyonce Protector.
Protect me.
Yeah. Because when I hear the song, so it's on her Cowboy Carter album, her country album. And so it's a lullaby that she sings to her
Oh,
kids. And so when the song first comes on, you can hear her youngest daughters ask her mom, Beyonce, can you sing me the lullaby? And the song is basically the lullaby that she sings to her kids. And there's a pivotal verse that's repeated throughout the song. And every time I think about it, I think about, first my twin brother, then my best friend, then my family, people who are close to me. And the verse goes, even though I know someday you're going to shine on your own, I'll still be your projector. And then it repeats and says, even though I know someday you're going to shine on your own, I will be your protector. So it's like projector, I'm illuminating your successes because I'm so proud of you. And I need you to know that I'm proud of you. Also, in the subsequent verse, I'm always going to be there to defend you. I'm always going to be there to guard you. No one's going to be able to do anything to you, say anything to you. I'm going to be your protector.
I love it.
And so I want, when I'm being honored and entombed, I want my family and my friends to hear that song and know that that is who I was for them. And I also, in turn, hope that I was able to show up as those things to my friends and my family.
That's beautiful. Yeah. To continue on with one of the questions, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind? How do you want to be remembered after those last 30 days?
You know what? Someone who had a witty and great sense of humor. Someone who not only was able to laugh at situations, but also laugh at himself. Um, Case in point, I'm always late wherever I go. Whatever I do, like case in point tonight, there was always something. There's always something. There's always something.
Sure, you were late to the podcast, in fact.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Yes, yes, yes. However, once I'm there, I'm a good time. And I'm gonna close it out too till the lights come on. To the room stink. However, also
Is that what he said?
yes, till the room stinks.
With joy and happiness is what he's talking about.
Sure thing. But also I want to be, and this is gonna sound very superficial. I want to be remembered as someone who gave great hugs. Because every time I hug someone, people's always like, "You give really great hugs."
I think that's a beautiful thing.
So, Fred, next time I see you, I'm gonna give you one of my
100%. We really don't. It speaks to human touch,
Yeah.
right? And we don't. As Americans, we keep our distance. It's a 6 foot distance. It's a handshake. And what I love about the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years of my life, I've seen men bring it in and hug each other in a way that says something different is happening in our cultures. Men are putting down whatever barrier it is about keeping their distance. All races, ethnicities, shaking hands and ending that thing with a hug. I love it, man. I love it. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but and I every day I wake up and I say a prayer for you all, my cisgender heterosexual brothers, because it's hard for y'all. Like, there's so many things that y'all can't do, whether it's because other cisgender heterosexual men have perpetuated that onto your clan, or women are perpetuating that, because I've always seen that men do things to get women, women do things to get men. And it might not always be healthy, but you're going to continue doing it because you want to get the women and the women want to get the men. Fine, whatever. You know what? I'm on the outside looking in. I'm gay. I'm Switzerland. I don't know what's happening in outer Mongolia. However, in Switzerland, we're just looking like, okay, well, if that's what I want to do, I guess. Um, However, the fact that I'm seeing more cisgender heterosexual men be vulnerable and emotional, it's a very endearing trait. And I just hope and pray that you all continue to explore those spaces, particularly as men of color who live in the South by choice.
It can be challenging. It can be tough. Um, and I say the same thing for cultures and communities and groups that I'm not a part of. My hope is that they are safe and happy and living and enjoying this life. The same privileges that I have, I wish them upon you and everyone else that I have the opportunity to engage with. Whether you're a young person or you are older, I hope that you lived a life where you were able to give thanks, show grace. I say often, I wake up in the morning. I wake up before everybody between 3:45 and 4:30 in the morning, and I have
God
yeah,
bless you.
and I have for almost 40 years, and it's whether I used to run a lot or do this. Now lately in the last 5-10 years, it's given me an opportunity to just give grace, to give thanks, to breathe, to not have to have a conversation, because once the kids get up and wife gets up, they want to talk and communicate. And I like my private time. I like the 10, 20, 30 minutes of just sitting outside with a cup of coffee. And I sound like a really old man, but I love it. I'm telling you, man, I love it.
I'm Fred,
Yeah,
bruh, but it's something about waking up when it's still quiet
it's a beautiful thing.
and all you hear is nature and outside.
Listen, because I can't even go to the bathroom without Dad. You in there? Well, yeah, I'm in here. The lights on.
Who else would
What,
I
what,
be?
what do you want? Yes, I'm in the back. Can I just brush my teeth in peace? I'll be out in about 7 minutes. Leave me alone. But as we come to the end of of our podcast, first thank you
Mm-hmm.
for your time and for your vulnerability. I wanted to remind you and our listeners that, in fact, I don't know how much time we have. This 30-day scenario, it's a fun way to get us to talk. But the truth is, Dr. Shirley, I don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to be here in a year.
Right.
I know that in 100 years, neither of us will be here. I know that in 50 years, I will not be here. And so we leave this recording as a resource and as a memory for those who love us and who knew us and who just want to hear our voice one last time. That's what this is at the very least. This is that resource. And with that, I want to share with you that you may live another 50, 60 years. What will you do?
Man.
What will you do? What will you do with your time from tomorrow on? Will you
Um,
change anything?
twofold. One, I would definitely continue to dedicate everything I can to my health and longevity, because that is something that is important to me. It has become important to me and vital to me. And even though that may mean that I may outlive my family, my friends, you know, at the end of the day, we have to be selfish for
Yeah.
ourselves, right? And the second thing that I would do is I would do everything in my power to emulate everyone who has gone before me. So if I am alive in another 50, 75, 100 years and my twin brother is gone, my very good friends are gone, my siblings are gone, I'm going to do everything in my power to continue to, as you said, speak them up and say things. And I even do this now with my parents. Like I can remember things, that phrases that my mother would say and my father would say, and conversations I had with my mother and my father. And as corny and nerdy as this is going to sound, y'all, whenever I talk to my siblings, we reenact conversations that we've had
I
with
get
our
it.
Yeah.
Boy, do I get it.
Oh, yeah.
like there's one conversation where it was my twin brother, my older sister, my mom, and I. We were in my mom's kitchen, and my older sister was telling the story, and my mother said, "Tara, that did not happen like that. Why are you lying? Why are you lying? If you're going to tell the story right."
Right. Well, it went
And
like this.
then we talk about something else, and we talk about like all my mama's kids because my mom had 5 kids, and my sister at the time only had one. I was like probably 13, 14 years old, me and Zach. And my mother was like, Tara, I've raised 5 children. How many have you raised? I know all my children. And Zach and I, we will say that in conversations, y'all, when we're talking to each other, and it's just so funny because we say it in her
I love
voice.
it.
And so that is something that I would also want to continue to do.
And that's how we keep our loved ones alive, man.
Yep.
And those beautiful stories, you
Yep.
know, and that's
So what were tidbits that y'all remember from y'all parents?
well, you know,
Like you was in a
I'll
conversation.
be honest with you. When I come into a home and I smell an overdose of bleach, I know my mama's around because she loved that bleach. And you know, and we have fun with things she said and things she did, and just it's hard sometimes. We're still in a phase where we're not done mourning, but we have started to celebrate
No.
her, and it's tough, right? Because we have our moments, and you said it earlier. There's no timeline. You grieve as long as you need to grieve. We hope that it doesn't put you in a position where you can't operate, but you take that time you need to grieve. You
Mhm.
surround yourself with the good people that are going to take care of you. You know, I have family members who said, "You had a tough time, man. You cried. I need you to pick yourself up. Let's go. We got to work. We got to do. Our families need us." And that's okay because it came from a family member, from family members, men who cared about me, including my father, who said, "You know, we gotta move forward. Let's honor your mother now. Let's honor her." And that's what we try to do. It's no different than what you said. You want to emulate. You want to re- show the beauty of those who have transitioned, and that's what I try to do. And my hope one day is that when I'm gone, that someone will speak my name, and when they speak my name, that it will be with a level of respect and reflection that says something positive. That's my hope, and I think
Caesar, what about you? I mean, Caesar, you have to think about one
Yeah,
thing.
no, for me, I think about my dad. He used to be the life of the party anywhere we went. So he would always be laughing and acting a fool everywhere we went. So I think I embodied a little bit of that part of him. I think whenever we're at family gatherings or whatever, I I get that.
yeah,
I'm that person. I'm that life of the party. I'm trying to embody, get everybody together, get everybody to have fun and enjoy the time that we have together as a family. And one of the other things that I've tried to do is also there's little songs that we remember, crazy dumb songs that my dad loved that I try to play for my little nephews. I don't have any kids myself as of yet, but playing for my nephew and my little niece and be like, hey, that's your grandpa loved that song, or show him pictures of grandpa acting a fool at a party, wearing a freaking panda suit for a baby shower that we went to one day. Little things like that. So I think that's how I try to keep his memory alive and try to keep something of him anywhere we will.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's how we keep it. That's how we keep our families alive, right? We keep their memory alive, and they live with us and within us, and the irony, of course, is that death has been a part of life since the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and we still can't figure it out. We still don't know. We still, I mean, it's fascinating, in fact, right?
Yeah.
That you can talk. We can advance the technology and computers and cars and everything else, but our grieving process is what it is, and death cannot be interrupted, and
No.
that's the reality.
It's very organic. It's like it's visceral almost.
Last thoughts from you, our guests.
Um, I mean, I would say that really have conversations with your family. Have conversations with your loved ones. As challenging as it may be, the conversations that I've had with, specifically my twin brother about how his transition is going to look and how he wants it to look, how I would want it to look. I mean, you don't know whether you want your family members or loved ones or you to be buried traditionally or cremated. Those are things that, people need to think about. And I think that up until the point that someone does transition and become an ancestor, appreciate them as much as you possibly can. Tell them on a regular basis that you love them. However, additionally, like we talked about earlier, talk about what you appreciate about them.
Yeah.
What is it about them that you are proud of, that you will continue to carry with you? There's so many things that I carry with my mother and father to this day. My mother passed away in 2012. My dad passed away this year. There are so many things that I carry with me, and I did not get an opportunity to tell them that, and I wish I did. So yeah. And also, this is really an excellent conversation topic for y'all to have, especially with men of color.
Thank you so much. Again, we want a resource. We want an opportunity for people to engage. If you're listening today and you want to be a guest on our podcast, or you have someone who you think would be a great guest, please contact us. And Dr. Shirley, thank you so much, man. I can't express
Man,
how
thank you, Dr.
appreciative I
Cortez. I
am.
appreciate it,
I
brother.
love you, man, and
Love you too, brother. It's great to meet
it's
you,
nice.
brother.
It's great. Thank you so much. Thank you all. We'll see you all next week.